On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, what are the keys to round number 2? What were the takeaways from round number 1? And who will the Thunder face off with in the second round?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked On Thunder. Find me on Thunder and SI at Rylan_Stiles. And we're here with Joel Lorenzi, beat writer at the Oklahoman at JX Lorenzi on Twitter. Joel, how you doing today?
I'm all right. Apparently my voice is going to sound different because I had caramel before this. And apparently that's like an agent of destruction for vocalists. That's what
agent of destruction. Agent of destruction is also what we call you in the Thunder media room. So it's fitting that Joel's already causing a scene on Locked On Thunder a minute into the pod. But Joel, we were down in Memphis, taking in the sights and scenes of FedEx Forum, for better or worse. What was your biggest takeaway from round 1?
On Memphis or the Memphis Grizzlies or the Thunder? Let's
biggest takeaway from round 1 with the Thunder, Joel, on Locked On Thunder. Maybe that didn't give it away for you.
Yeah, not a big sample size, obviously. That's a sweep. So I think I don't know that my opinion on the Thunder changed too much in either direction. I thought I knew going into the series if any team was capable of throwing turds at the glass like they did in game 4 and still coming out with a win, I thought they were the most capable of doing so. Obviously, like I haven't had a super strong opinion on how shooting variance might affect them because I think like all year they've won crazy games while shooting poorly. Maybe not as bad as they did in game 4, but they've won games in so many ways that I wasn't hanging on to variance. I was more closely looking at how Chet and J-Dub would look, what that might mean for next round, the sort of rhythm they catch, the shots they would take, how that maybe differed from last year this time, because obviously I think a lot of people came away from last year's run, that those 10 games, saying that like Dub and Chet got some work to do. Obviously, different defenses from round to round and different defenses from last year's Dallas team to the Memphis team they played just last week. But obviously, we did see Dub and Chet, I'd say, getting the rhythm. They each had a really good series, especially Dub, I thought, and both of their shot selections, I thought, were different and encouraging than last year's postseason. And obviously, again, like Mark even said this the other day, like it's kind of defense dependent. It's the way the coverages, the kind of coverages they're showing you. But for Chet to take almost 7 threes a game in that series, I thought was encouraging based on what we saw last year.
Yeah, I mean the defense was letting him take threes, and he was a willing shooter, and that's what I think is the most encouraging from round 1. Is even though they shot 20% from 3 in game 4, and they didn't shoot the ball particularly well from beyond the arc the entire series. It was like a 7-point drop off from what they did in the regular season. The shots that they did generate were open, clean looks, and more importantly, everyone across the board, but specifically Chet and J-Dub and Isaiah Joe and Cason Wallace, like they were willing to take shots in tighter windows than you see in the regular season, which a year ago they were not willing to do that against Dallas, and it ends up hurting them and losing them the series, and of course ending their season, because we talked all offseason, we talked all regular season about that shortcoming against Dallas, where whenever the windows got tighter and this team that was predicated on ball movement and generating, great shots by passing up good ones, you can't pass up good looks in the playoffs. And I don't think that the Thunder did that in round 1. Even though the ball didn't go in, they still took good shots. They still generated good shots, but the willingness to take them was a big step. And I think that it's highlighted by J-Dub. And I think that the key to round 2, no matter who you play, is J-Dub to play the way he did in round 1, where he was excellent in the sense of his impact. There's also some meat left on the bone with J-Dub that he can get even better. And it's stuff that's inside of his control, kind of regardless of defense. Like he got to the free throw line 10 times in game 3. He ends up getting there about 4 times a game in this 4-game series. but he only makes 60% of his free throws. Like, he's going to shoot better from the free throw line. Obviously, he's not some stellar free throw shooter, but he's 78% from the free throw line, which is 18 points better than he was percentage wise at the line in this series. So that improving, his catch and shoot numbers are going to improve because we have a whole body of work now of 3 seasons where he shoots the ball a lot better than he did against Memphis. And as long as that happens, and he continues to impact the game the way he impacted it in round 1, where he was in complete control of the offense, and in 2 games, the first 2 games to set the tone for this series, it was J-Dub who broke the game wide open in the non-Shai minutes, doing it in the second quarter and the start of the fourth quarter, respectively, in those first 2 games. That's what's going to be the biggest swing for the Thunder as these rounds go further and as you try to obtain this lofty goal of winning a championship. You're going to have J-Dub play at that level of impact. I think that was my biggest takeaway and my biggest key for game 2, for round 2, is just J-Dub showing up the way he did, to be aggressive downhill, to generate his own shots. And if he can do that consistently, he answers a lot of questions that we had about him, but also he would do something that I, questioned if he could do just simply because of, relative to age. Like, if a second-year guy can play this way, second-year playoff guy can do this in his second ever playoff run, there's a short list of guys who have done it before, and so far he's done it, and so far he's been able to pass the postseason with the flying colors.
Right, and like, any questions about whether he could do it round and round are perfectly fair. Like last year, even though I think the Grizzlies team they just played was better than the New Orleans team they played last year. I mean, specifically just for reasons of being just having more bodies, like having more important bodies, save for when Ja went down, obviously. But like, it's fair to assume that Dub's play can drop off from round to round because it did last year. I mean, it's fair to assume that, or to still question these things, because we haven't seen like Memphis played a lot of drop last round, and Dallas, I think what they were best at in that series was being able to have not only the bodies that can match sort of Dub's size and length and challenge. Obviously, he's loved to finish with his length to challenge that, but the level of switching they did to sort of limit the driving windows and limit those shot windows, which is obviously part of the reason that, I mean, they won't explicitly say it was because of the postseason, but they went into the summer knowing like, hey, we got to get our shots off faster. Specifically, Dub has to look at certain windows and say, hey, I got to shoot that. I thought he did that in round 1, but then again, Memphis played so much drop. Like, how much did they truly challenge those windows? How much did they truly put really high on-ball pressure on him? Another thing Dallas did well, I thought, last year was push him higher up the floor, trap him at times. Like, you didn't see a lot of that, a lot of those challenges where they say, hey, Dub, like, we want you to dribble, we want you to play make and just make decisions out of these traps and different coverages really high up the floor. Some of the stuff you more traditionally see with Shai. And so we've yet to see that. And I think it'll be more prominent if it was a Clippers series versus a Nuggets series, because obviously they have the bodies to do that. I mean, these playoffs, I mean, it's not looking good for them, but these playoffs, I think, have traditionally in a short window rewarded the teams who have a really great kitchen sink type of defense, but also have just enough offense. Now, the just enough offense part, like the Clippers let us down yesterday, but like earlier in the series, that was the case. But as far as the defense goes, they have their bodies. They have Kawhi that they can put on double. Obviously, like, it's worth noting the Kawhi isn't the defender he once was, but at his best, the length, the size of his hands, the things he can do when he actually tries to put on-ball pressure, let alone like if there's a second defender to come trap. Like, let's say Dub likes to skip through the lane a lot with a 1-pound dribble and go to a floater or whatever, to like split a defense. That could be Chris Dunn right there at the nail or wherever else. Like, that's troublesome. And so we haven't seen that level of challenge yet in these playoffs. I'm not saying he's not ready for that. Clearly, the shot selection is improved and the courage to shoot those shots is vastly different from a year ago. Like, even with Chet, like, yeah, the drop allowed him to get a lot of open shots, but I even thought there was some where he's coming off like a I don't know, like an Iverson cut or something, like he has to get into a pick and roll. Like there are shots like I mentioned this to him where the one that Edie blocked in game 4, like that's a shot he was clearly eager to take. Now it was a bad read in his words, but that's not a shot he even remotely thinks of. One, that's not a possession he's putting the ball on the floor last year, but it's not a shot he thinks about shooting probably in that Dallas series. And so I thought I saw that with Chet, and then with Dub, he's pulling above the break in transition. Like he needs less to happen in a possession for him to say, okay, I'm gonna shoot this shot. And so I think it can happen next round, but it's also dependent on the defense. And we still have yet to see, I think, a defense that challenge him to the level that Dallas did last year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see as the series progress and the rounds progress if J-Dub can sustain this level of play. The encouraging thing would be the last 8 games of his regular season, he played at this level. He's obviously an all-star this year, but particularly the last 8 games of his season, he was phenomenal. In the first 4 games of the playoffs, he was phenomenal. He's got to do it again in round 2, and that's going to be one of the deciding factors of round 2, which is why he leads off our keys to round 2. We'll have more coming up, including about 3-point shooting, SGA, and free throws. But first, Joel, I got to tell you right now, our good friends over at Wayfair. Spring is here, Joel, and that means that home project season is here. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling full renovations, Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. And Joel, your living room needs some improving. Let's just say that. So from small updates to stylish cabinets and to even major upgrades like a better couch, for example, with Joel, you can go check it out at Wayfair. Check it out today at Wayfair. They have free and fast shipping to make it easy. Wayfair makes home improvement easy by going to wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day, here with the eccentric Joel Lorenzi, the Oklahoman beat writer.
I'll have you know, my couch is more than fine. It's work that I've had a new couch since the last time Rylan came to visit, and it's more than worth sleeping on. I mean, I find myself falling asleep there most nights because I'm writing and I'm a sicko. But it's more than fine, okay? And this is the core you see in the background. This is the first floor of my building, which I don't mind. I don't mind their taste in art anyway. So I'll have you know.
Yeah, well, we can have an apartment tour vlog later with Joel and try to refresh him with Wayfair. But Joel, you have an interesting style. They have everything you need over there. Joel, keys to round 2. Continuing here, we've talked J-Dub. We've talked some Chet. I think that Chet Holmgren, like he played at such an elite level defensively against Memphis, particularly in game 4, where he's able to beat Scottie Pippen Jr. to the rim and erase a shot. He's able to pick Scottie Pippen Jr.'s pockets, driving baseline with a little Nash dribble, and he takes it away and really ices the game by getting Pippen out of the game with the foul and going to the free throw line to continue to grow the Thunder's lead. Like he was really good on that end of the floor. And then offensively, just the willingness to take threes is the big deal that we've already mentioned that he was not able to do, last postseason in the sense of getting those shots off and getting them up over defenses in tighter windows. And I think that you're going to start to see either defenses let him shoot, which is not a great option if you're the opponent, and you're going to give him open looks and he's going to cash them in, or it bends the defense in a way where they're trying to run him off the line. And you already saw in that Memphis series where he got a hard closeout, puts one dribble on the floor, gets to the mid-range, rise up, midi, knocks it down, and opens up the offensive game that way. He also had a beautiful skip pass to the corner whenever he was kind of on the heavy side of the floor, kicks it to the corner, empty side, Cason Wallace three-pointer, wide open in the corner. The shot doesn't go in. The pass is not remembered, but that goes back to the shooting variance of if this Thunder offense can start to shoot the ball better, then those plays start to add up and they start to become backbreaking for opponents. So I do think that the 3-point shots, I know it's shot variance, I know that they generated great looks, but eventually they just have to fall. Like eventually they have to actually go in the bottom of the net, and that's going to be the biggest key in round 2.
Yeah, no, and to your point with Chet, I think you're right. I thought, and this was a gripe I had last year, I thought they could have used him better as far as like just feeding him in the middle of the floor with so many of those switching scenarios and some of the coverages when they would go to zone, or like, I mean, Dallas had so many effective coverages. Like when they put, and it was too little too late for this, when they put Chet in the middle of the floor as like a short roller, like let him make the read there, he was good, especially in that last game or two. And he's still like getting, now it looks different now. Like you said, it's the closeout. He's putting the ball on the floor and he's deciding, hey, is the drive there, or he can make a read. Like it's not just resetting or like what Hardenstein does, where it's like, okay, let me just get to the next action. Like Chet can actually make the read, and that's not to say Hardenstein can't, but Chet can actually make the read off the dribble, and so I think that is something worth knowing. As far as the variance, like you're right, the shooting is going to have to be better. Like you can get away with that in Memphis. I mean, the only reason you come back in those games is because your defense is stifling. You keep them from scoring, which was probably easier to do in Game 3 once Ja goes out and the momentum shifts. But next round, I mean, you're looking at Denver. That's one of the few offenses to put up. You know, I think they still had the season high points scored on the Thunder in that ABC game, or the not the ABC game, but the one after that, this second of the pair of games here where they scored, I don't know, 141, 143 or something crazy like that. And obviously, like speaking of variance, like Russell Westbrook went crazy in that game. Javon Pickett, or Jalen Pickett, sorry, I'm Mizzou alum. Jalen Pickett went crazy in that game. So like these are things that you probably can't count on game to game, but it's the stuff that Denver's capable of. I mean, if Denver has Jamal Murray going crazy like he did last night, like you're looking at trying to match an offense. Granted, the Thunder's defense is better than the Clippers defense, but this is still a Denver offense capable of doing some things and pulling the right strings and pushing the right buttons in a playoff series. Like your shooting at least has to be subpar, not just, I don't want to say it was egregious, but it was definitely well below the standard, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, like you even look at last night's game, a pivotal game 5, where both teams have to get this win because we know the history. Like in the first round, if a home court advantage team wins game 5, they're 50-2 after the series was tied 2-2, and they win game 5, they're 50-2. Like last night was a massive game for both teams. And the Nuggets were just surrendering wide open threes because they're just not talented enough defensively. They're too sluggish to really contest heavy ball movement from the Clippers, however seldom that did come. But the Clippers were able to generate, especially off offensive rebounds, wide open threes, and they hit them at a 38% clip, but they left a lot of meat on the bone of those open 3-point attempts that came their way. You look up and down their roster, and Chris Dunn was 3 for 4, and then Bogdanovich was 4 for 8, and then past that it was kind of one-off threes, but a lot of them were open misses, and that's where the shot variance is going to matter, because if we know Denver is going to give up open threes, if you're not hitting them, and then they do get the Russell Westbrook game and they do get the Jamal Murray game all at once, and you know what Jokic is, then that's a game you're going to have to chalk down as a loss, and you're going to have to battle through in a 7-game series. And neither one of these two teams, the Clippers or the Nuggets, whoever ends up coming into Oklahoma City for round 2 in game 1, no one will pick the Thunder to beat these two in less than 6 games. And I think that it really has the chance to go the distance and play all 7 of these matchups. So that's going to become very important as the series goes along. But yeah, eventually it has to switch from talking about shot variance to talking about makes. But the Thunder, to their credit, are doing the things to generate makes. It's just if you look at their shot quality and where they were, like the math tells you that is going to get ironed out in round 2, just by the probability of it all. And then it leads us right into SGA. It's like SGA is a key to round 2 because these teams are so good that you're going to need him to be worlds better, frankly, than he was in round 1. But it's also like there's a difference in a key versus a concern, because like, no duh, like everyone knows that. And I think that everyone has a very strong feeling that Shai will be the game 4 version of him against Memphis versus the first 3 games version of him, because that's who he's been more often than not in his career to date. And even going back to last playoffs, for as much as we rightfully boast about Dallas's defense, and they did everything, to use your phrase, they threw the entire kitchen sink at him, yet he still averaged 32 points a game on good efficiency because he's just that kind of a player. But yes, it is a key that he has to be better, and we just have to see him do it. It's similar to the 3-point shot variance of like, yeah, it's true that he got to his spots, and it's true that he got shot attempts that he wants. The shots just have to go in, and I think that they will, just like I think that the 3-point shots will go in.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The teams that have throttled Shai, which is like hard to say. It just feels. I mean, I don't know that they're doing anything spectacular. Like it's the crowding once he gets to his spots because you really can't keep him away from them. And then it's him more often than not, like missing them. Like as he said last round, like just missing them. And it's funny. I think the Clippers held him to his least efficient performance of the season in the regular season. And from what I remember about that game, it was just a lot of him getting to those same spots. A lot of the time when you're looking at the number, and it's like, oh, that looks like a tour day from him, which is not often. It's usually when he's trying to swing a game, or in this case, a series, by opening up the pull up three and seeing it. And what I seem to remember is the Clippers sort of gapping him some and daring him like, hey, and he takes that upon himself sometimes. Like, it doesn't have to always be a foot or two gap. It could be a few inches. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And he's pulling, like he likes that. And so that's how I seem to remember how that game went. Not saying that that's how that goes for series. I mean, he also, I believe, dropped 45 on them this year. So like he can give you a mixed bag. But I do generally, I would not bet against him having a bad series. But you do need him to have a good series by his standards, even if that means he has a, I don't know, 7.5 out of 10 or 8.5 out of 10 series by his standards, and Dub has a 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 series. Like, you do need him to at least be good, because the one thing you can't guarantee based on what you've seen already is that Jokic is going to come to play every game. I mean, the other night was probably the least imprint he's had on a game, it felt like. I mean, Jamal just took off. Like, that was his game to claim. His fingerprints were all over that. But Jokic in pretty much every game has left about the MVP impact you would sort of expect. MVP runner up, I guess, maybe, depending on this week. But he's consistent, and so you need Shai to return to what he's been. Like, it's like you said, it's not a concern, but it is a demand almost.
Coming up, what other keys to round two are there, and who's it going to end up being, Denver or LA? We'll talk about that coming up. But first, I want to say right now, better good friends over at Game Time. Go check out Game Time today, because there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and Game Time can get you there without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down closer to tip-off, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60% off. Check it out today, because I love their all-in pricing, meaning no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you get. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets at Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. They have sporting events, concerts, movies, comedy shows. I'm taking Joel down the lot to see Frank Caliendo from Game Time. So terms and conditions apply whenever you redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off your first purchase. Go download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Here with Joel Lorenzi from the Oklahoman, the beat writer, the man, the myth, the legend, the disruptor, Joel Lorenzi. Joel, outside of making waves, what other keys to round two do you have for us?
Keys to round two. It's really series dependent. Because again, like, although this team has versatility in coverages, like how those coverages show their head matters. Like, you're worried about potentially an engine like Jokic. And then now I think a lot of our assumption as to OKC's playoff road and journey and their chances. The way we talked about Denver before this was like, well, Jamal Murray has the suds. Like, he's not who he was in the bubble. Like, the bubble was isolated. Like, we grew so far away. We moved so far away from the bubble that people were like, okay, that's an outlier. But like, this is potentially who he is in a series. Now, I don't know that Jamal will perform the way he did and has against the Clippers in a Thunder series, because obviously I think as good as the personnel is for the Clippers, I think the Thunder just has more and potentially better. Um, I do think like that's a factor that I don't think a lot of people consider. Like, a lot of people wrote off, and so it is my keys are series dependent for sure. That's about as much as I can say on that.
And hopefully we can round you back up into the show once we know the series. But you are a very flaky one, so that's a tough task. We don't want to promise anything with Joel. But Joel, who do you think will be the round 2 opponent between Denver and LA? Obviously, Game 6 on Thursday night could decide things. But who do you feel like after seeing 5 games of the series?
Yeah, I think we entered the series in agreement, and even as last night was going on, the early parts of last night and before the game last night, I think we both thought, like, if there was a team between the two of these that the Thunder didn't want to see, it was the Clippers. Now I'm not so sure that. I mean, obviously, the way either of these teams fare against the Thunder has nothing to do. I shouldn't say nothing to do, but it's separate of this series, right? But I thought just on paper, entering this postseason, the Clippers had one of the best defenses. They surged toward what felt like the last few weeks of the season. Uh, Kawhi was starting to round into form. James Harden and Zubats, their connection has been strong all year. Zubats deservedly could end up being most improved. I think he's among the finalists there, right? Like that dude has become a legit anchor, and that defense has become one of the best. Like I'd be next to the Thunder. I'd be most fearful of them or the Timberwolves. I'd say, but like then again, like the series has proved me wrong. Like they haven't stood the length of the series with Denver, and I imagine maybe there'll be a book written like 10 years from now, and guys are like revealing that, like, hey, like we lost hope after the lob to end that game. Like we just couldn't maintain shape. I don't know the reasons. It would be easy to say that Denver has simply figured out the Clippers, or I mean, the fact that uh, what we thought was Russell Westbrook and Michael Porter Jr. might have been hampered. Like, are they truly? Like, there's so many things that went on in the series that was supposed to tack on to my impression of the series entering it that just haven't held up. Like Denver was just better than them in Game 5, and you named the stat earlier. Like it's not looking good for the Clippers. All that being said, I do think the Clippers have the best chance if they were in the series with the Thunder of landing a real first punch. Just with all their components, Kawhi should be at his best. That was not the case in Game 5. Should be at his best. The best player in maybe almost arguably every series, save for crazy enough Denver and OKC, if things are how they should be written. But you have that. You have James Harden, the engine. You have Zubats, a great center. You have so many good, uh, uh, fruitful role players like Nick Batum and Norman Powell. And I mean, the list goes on. Like you have the components of a real team. I think they go deeper or should go deeper than the Nuggets. None of these teams go quite as deep as the Thunder. But that's why I thought the Clippers would have made the first punch. Now it's looking like Denver's going to come out of that, and you probably have to shift your attention to them.
Yeah, I think that it is separate, right? Even no matter how this series is faring, the Clippers would be a tougher draw for the Thunder just by the simple fact of their defense, and their defense is so good and matches up well with Oklahoma City. And then, their biggest problem to solve would be Kawhi. And for as great as the Thunder's point of attack defenders are, Kawhi's size would make it difficult to just send one person to him. And now you're talking about doubling them. Now you're talking about creating a number advantage away from Kawhi. But I would trust the Thunder to take away the Harden Zoo pick and roll more so than I trust any other team to be able to do that effectively. So I think that the Thunder would be favored against either one of these two teams. But if you can avoid that Clippers defense, I think that you'd like to do so, because with Denver, there's going to be a couple games in this series where, like, baked into the game is, hey, you tip your cap. Russell Westbrook made 4 threes. Jamal Murray went for 38. You tip your cap, but there's also going to be games where Russell Westbrook has 3 costly turnovers. He has 4 missed shots, and Lou Dort has suffocated Jamal Murray, and now the Thunder have ran away with it. And so I think that through the course of a 7-game series, it would line out to where the Thunder would be able to take care of Denver just by the simple fact of the depth and the fact that Denver's already banged up with Michael Porter Jr., which is like if that injury at all gets worse after finishing off, like if they're able to finish off this series and they're able to finish it in 6 or 7 games, that's 2 more games played. Then it doesn't get any easier against Oklahoma City, not even just because of talent, but because of style of play, where like you're going to be banged up. It's going to be a physical affair against the Thunder, which is not conducive to Michael Porter Jr.'s injury status, to where like that becomes a much bigger storyline. Because if it gets any worse, who do they turn to? And then the fact of their lack of depth with like DeAndre Jordan's playing meaningful minutes in a pivotal game 5. The Thunder have to be able to capitalize on those meaningful DeAndre Jordan minutes. They have to be. And if they can't, then they're not who we think that they are. So like I just think that I understand that both teams are good teams, but if the Thunder are who we think they are, they should be able to beat both of them, but they should have an easier time against Denver's lack of defense in round 2. And that brings us to the rest of the first round, Joel. We've already seen some series go differently than at least I thought that they would. Like I did not expect the Lakers to be down 3-1 right now. And we know what LeBron's capable of, down 3-1, but still he could be eliminated by the time that you're listening to this. So with the way that the series are shaping up, you could get Denver, then you could get one of the Timberwolves and the Warriors if everything holds serve. Does it change your expectations for the Thunder that if everything held the way it's holding up right now, you'll have avoided Luka Doncic, who is the bane of this Thunder's defense, and you'd have to win one tough round to get to the West Finals?
Change expectations? I want to lean no, just as far as like, because I came in thinking that like they could very well make the finals. I still think Boston would probably beat them in a series. That much hasn't changed. Maybe you're, I don't know, ripping less hair out over their journeys to get there, potential journey to get there. But I don't think my expectations have changed. I mean, you're still looking at if my expectations were to change, they would slightly like breeze over toward like they for sure gotta make the conference finals. I don't know, because then you're looking at like I don't know who people would pick in a Minnesota Golden State series. I'm personally would probably pick Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm picking Minnesota.
I've just been like, people should really be wary of Minnesota, man. Like that. I thought that to me they were a top 2 threat from other series. I thought the Lakers offense, for as much as we talked about their offense, for as good as their offense looked, again, they had video game numbers in OKC, but like you got 3 creators at that level. I didn't think the playoff dip and adjustments and everything, the physicality, whatever, I didn't think it'd make them look that bad. I mean, they're struggling to piece together like beyond a hair over triple digits in some of these games. Like, I didn't think it would look like that. But for Minnesota to come out and embarrass them like that, like Minnesota's just flat out been and looked like a better team, which is probably what they were all along. And so if it ends up being Minnesota and Golden State, and then Minnesota, let's say, advances to the conference finals, like that's a worthy bout. You know what I mean? Like Minnesota, I think people's perception of Minnesota is like not what it should be, and it's probably because of people have these lingering ideas of the Julius Randle move and what that is. But like a lot of the guys that they were worried about early season, like have been, have had big contributions. Like Dante DiVincenzo has been much better than in early season. Julius Randle looks like something real. And so, and then Ant is like, Ant dropped, what was it, 40 in that one game? Like Ant looks like the real deal again. And so that would be who I'd be concerned about. I don't know that it's enough to say, hey, well, they if they don't make the finals, it's okay. Like I'm not on that side of the fence. But you gotta be a little more like Clippers, Nuggets, Timberwolves being the 3 potential teams, and even the Warriors. Like if the Warriors were to beat the Timberwolves, how shocked would you be? Like if they just pulled Jimmy out of a hat and just beat Minnesota, like how shocked would you be?
I wouldn't be overly shocked. I think that if you're going to draw the Warriors in the conference finals, you need to win it. I think that the Thunder are just far and away better than the Warriors as a team and should be able to execute. But I think that the Timberwolves,
far and away,
they just are. And I mean, like, I get it. The the headlines and the star power of Jimmy and Steph, fine, but you have to be able to match up with Golden State. I think. I think that all that's changed hasn't really changed. It's just kind of tightened up the perception of like, this team has to be in the West Finals, and then past the West Finals, let's cross that bridge when we get there. Let's see what the matchup is. Let's see what the injury statuses are. Let's see what that series entails. But having watched the Clippers and Nuggets go at it, it's been the most fun series of the playoffs so far. But neither team is infallible. Neither team should be able to beat the Thunder in a 7-game series if the Thunder are who we think they are. So I think that their expectation level has to be, hey, go win one tough playoff series, which you haven't done yet. You haven't won a tough playoff series yet with this core. It's only their second ever try to do so. But I think that you have to do it just based upon the limitations of both the Clippers and the Nuggets. I mean, again, this was a must-win game for the Clippers, and Kawhi goes for 20 points, and James Harden goes for 11 points. Like that's what the Denver defense, who we think is just the worst defense in the playoffs that's left, like that's what they did to the Clippers 2 stars. If you have this historically great defense, you've got to be able to replicate that. And same thing with what we talked about with the advantages that the Thunder could have over the Denver Nuggets. Yes, the Nuggets, I think, have the best player in the series. They have the best player in the world in Jokic. I do think that Shai's still the MVP, which we've never really conflated the two until this year. But I just think that the first and foremost, the requirement would be the Thunder have to make the West Finals. And then I think that they'd be in great position to go to the NBA Finals. I think that they should be the favorite to go to the NBA Finals. But as we see through these playoff series, a lot can change in the course of just one series for a plenty of different reasons. But first and foremost, no matter who gets out of this first round series, the Thunder have to be in the West Finals. Joel.
And that much we can agree on.
Yeah, you're not very agreeable. So to be able to agree on something is a great way to end the show, Joel. Joel, you've got a lot of stuff in the hopper. Some would say too much stuff. Some would say that the hopper needs to be emptied out pretty quickly here at the Oklahoman, but I'm not Jeff, so I'm not going to tell you that. But what can people expect from you at the Oklahoman, Joel?
Well, they can expect if things go as planned, they can expect a big Lou Dort story pretty soon. If the Thunder last past next round as we expect them to, they could expect a big Jalen Williams story. These are some. I usually don't even give up my sauce, my secrets on here, but these are some of the things that readers and listeners can come to expect. So.
Well, we're just begging for a crumb of information, Joel, and for the comments that love Joel and want Joel back on the pod. Listen, he stands me up too much. Hopefully,
those are scarce.
Hopefully, we can get him back on the show at the end of the week next week. It's tough to fit into his busy schedule. He's got a lot going on. We'll be reading chapters.
What really happens is Rylan hits me up at the weirdest times, and then when I have been ready to go, he hits me up an hour or two later, or he falls asleep. He won't tell you that earlier in the Clippers series, we were supposed to record. I had just came home. We were supposed to record, and this dude falls asleep like before.
Just came home is a bit of a stretch in terms of the relative time that I fell asleep, but I did fall asleep once. Joel has also skipped out on 4 other pods. I'm putting it on the record. Joel needs to come.
Whoa, who's counting?
Joel needs to come back by Tuesday of next week. Hopefully it happens. But listen, you're going to have to hold Joel to that standard, not me. I'm always available. Go find him at Joel Lorenzi on Twitter, the Oklahoman, all the good stuff. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.